So welcome again to the second Friends public meeting. I am Bonnie Hawley, the Executive Director of Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks, and I want to welcome you all. In addition to all of you as our honored guests, we're joined today by our Friends team members and presenters, including our board chair, Nicolara Dunbar-Jansons, our board officers and some board members. We also have colleagues from State Parks, Superintendent Chris Sporer, Deputy Superintendent Jordan Burgess, and our Cooperating Association Liaison, Mike McMenemy. We're also joined by Friends volunteers, consultants, and you. So a few bits of housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded. The chat is live, and we ask if you have any questions to please put them in the chat, and we'll move to questions at the end of the meeting. So tonight you are going to hear from 10 presenters in 45 minutes, which is a mass process improvement over the last public meeting where I spoke for about 50 minutes straight, and then Chris gave some really good remarks from the state parks. But this time we've decided to broaden the participation, and you'll be hearing from a host of our dedicated team. And each person is going to communicate in their own way. Some people have written remarks, other people will be speaking off of talking points, so you should be in for a variety of highlights. So we're going to talk to you about some of the ways that Friends works with state parks to help our community support our beautiful parks and beaches. If you want more details, you can go to our detailed operations reports that are on our website at that'smypark.org. Next slide, please. So who are we and what do we do? On the top of the slide on the right-hand side, you'll see our mission statement. And if it's too tiny to read, it says, Friends is a vital partner with California State Parks, creatively working to ensure our cherished local parks are thriving and available to all. Friends' innovative and community collaborative partnership provides support and investment for education, equity and inclusion, conservation, facilities improvements, historic preservation, and cultural events. We support state parks and beaches throughout Santa Cruz County and coastal San Mateo, a total of 32 or 34, depending how you count them. And our nonprofit's been around since 1976. We currently directly employ 113 Friends staffers. And over the last 6 years, Friends has provided over $35 million of support to our local state parks and beaches. So we're meeting tonight to publicly highlight recent activities and accomplishments. And we're going to talk a lot about partnership. So partnerships are truly embraced by state parks, and Friends has an
Good night, Kevin.
Friends has an operating agreement with state parks for the co-management of Santa Cruz District State Parks. Next slide. So to tell you about our partnership, I'm happy to welcome our Santa Cruz District Superintendent, Chris Sporer.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to be with you this evening, and thanks, Bonnie, for the introduction. I just want to start by saying I feel very lucky to be part of a district that has such a strong partner in our co-management partner here with Friends. You know, it's not every day you get to come into work and see the smiling faces in kiosks of your co-management partner. I think that's unique in Santa Cruz. It's very meaningful, and the daily interactions that we have with your inspired staff and your leadership team, and just working with such a committed and involved board, it makes a real difference to all of us. I want to say that the last couple of years we have had some challenges that face the region, and it is in times like that having a strong partner like Friends makes a huge difference. And it is never more clear, and we will never forget how quickly Friends recognized the need after the CZU fire for our staff who had been responding to that fire and had lost everything, basically. That need was met so quickly, but first recognized and then met by friends. That's something that is unforgettable, but it really speaks to the kind of partnership that we have and the meaningfulness of how we work well together. That fire recovery from CZU has been all-consuming for us, and Friends as a partner has been right there with us every step of the way. I want to highlight that because it's certainly for me as the district superintendent, it has changed my focus, and it's something that it will take years to get through that recovery, but the parts that we have already accomplished have been done so much more successfully because of our partnership with Friends. And starting with the initial recovery and the fundraising that went in, and having Friends be there to be able to accept the donations and turn those from the community into real live actions that were enhanced the stewardship of the park and the recovery. That was very meaningful, and one of those things we see every day, which is old growth trees that would have probably been cut down because they were deemed hazardous, were saved by the efforts of Friends and those recovery funds, and us working together as a team to focus the actions to prune those trees rather than have to cut them down. So that's sort of generational type decision making and support that doesn't go unnoticed. And then to open that park, less than 2 years after the fire came through, that could not have happened without Friends' help. So when I asked for this organization to devise and implement a reservation system for day use, which was critical for us to be able to manage the public's access and safety in the park, Friends was able to do that on time, better than expected. Remarkable. That system is working today, and it's one of the highlights of the public access portion of our park at Big Basin. So that's something really that has happened recently that's kind of outstanding. And looking at the long-term planning for Big Basin with a number of partners, including Friends, has given us a vision for what the future of that park can be. And I hope to, and I know that working with Friends, we're going to create that model for recovery from an incident like that will enhance how parks look at the future and in a changed climate. So very exciting there. And I have to mention, the recent storms. Again, these are very recent events, but it's coming through the storms in January, specifically at Seacliff, with a partner like Friends that can support us every step of the way. I'm not sure how we would have got through it without that. So huge thank you from our team. And that's just a daily thing that we deal with, is response to these incidents. But I wouldn't want to do it without a co-management partner that's as flexible, as creative, and as committed as Friends. So, I think one of the things also that I really need to mention is that going through those things, it really changes the business model, the revenue streams. We know that's an important part of our partnership, is that we can share those operational and fiscal responsibilities together in creative ways. Really strengthens the way we work together. Then I'm just going to finish by highlighting something I know you're going to hear more about, but we're so proud of it. And that's the completion of the restoration of the Castro Adobe as a 20-year effort, bringing the community together. There are lots of projects that are enhanced by having partnerships. This is a project that would not have happened but for the efforts of Friends, the staff, the commitment, bringing the community together. Just a huge deal to be able to create this state historic park, this resource that's available for the public. I'm really looking forward to the future there. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, it's certainly been an epic couple of years, as you point out, and it's really, truly been a pleasure to work with you and your leadership team and the state park staff at every level on a daily basis. So thank you for your leadership. and to your entire staff. Next slide, please. So the Friends organization is led by an amazing board of directors, and we are led this year by our board chair, Nicolara Dunbar-Janssens. Nicolara.
Thanks, Bonnie. So there are 12 volunteers on the board, many of us volunteering on the committees or in other roles as well. I myself started volunteering 9 years ago, and when I first signed up, I thought I'd be pulling weeds at the Mission State Park. I ended up joining the Mission Committee, and I had the opportunity to be a neighborhood stakeholder and advocate for my own neighborhood. 3 years later, I started serving on the board, and I had the opportunity to hear about the many projects and learn more about our parks and beaches. It's been an honor to volunteer with such great people, both on the board and the staff. The staff does a huge amount of work to prepare and help run the board meetings efficiently and in a timely manner. The board is responsive and good in coming together for a crisis, which we've had to do quite a few times in the last few years. And we are actively recruiting for our committees and for our board if anyone attending today is interested, or if you know of anyone you'd recommend. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicolara. We do have just an incredible board. Some people have been on for a short period, others have been on for a very long time, and we really appreciate all of your efforts. So thank you, and thanks to all the other board members who are on this Zoom. So next slide, please. So we're going to move to our staff presentations. The first thing we're going to highlight is visitor and park services. So next slide. We're going to start with our operations director, Peg Danielson. So it is my great pleasure to turn you over to Peg.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hi, everyone. It's great to have an opportunity to speak with you today about our visitor services staff and the support that we provide to state parks. And I'm going to be one of those people who's largely reading their stuff. And that's because not only am I really, really nervous, but I also have a lot of things that I want to make sure that I remember to tell you. So I'll be checking my notes to make sure that I'm giving you all the good details. So to start out with, I want to talk about our Friends field staff. They are absolutely one of the key foundations to our work here at Friends. We have between 32 and 34 beaches. I personally count it as 34 beaches. Other people, may not agree with me, but I do know that we have 22 kiosks, and staffing those 22 kiosks, we employ between 94 and 105 field staff. So we have friendly and very competent visitor service aides who provide customer support to the visiting public. We have senior visitor service aides who bring their experience and leadership to the visitor services program. State Parks provides day-to-day supervision of our field staff. Hiring and other staffing decisions are made jointly by Friends and State Parks. Field staff receives site-specific training, say that 3 times fast, from State Parks, while Friends provides basic information, safety training, harassment prevention training, and unconscious bias training to all Friends employees, field and admin. During the last several years of turmoil, COVID, fire, and flood, oh my, we are especially proud to have kept our full field staff on board. They have worked quite literally outside the box to provide information about closures and to help the public understand the ever-changing circumstances in our parks. As access was restored, they returned to their more normal duties. You can't talk about the field without talking about all the supplies that we need to run the program. Things like uniform pants, shirts, and jackets, computers, printers, copiers, safes, mini blinds for the kiosk, fans, heaters, megaphones, binoculars, oh, so many chairs. And in the last couple of years, boxes and boxes of cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment. So that's sort of the field staff. And then I also get to talk to you about other kinds of staff support and supplies that we provide to state parks. We also fund some positions where the employees work directly for state parks, but they're funded through Friends. And those positions vary from year to year depending on what parks needs are. Currently, we're paying wages and applicable benefits for 2 full-time maintenance staff at Castle Rock and between 33 and 35 interpretive positions. The interpreters work at the parks that you love to visit, and together with their volunteers and docents put on many of the programs and activities that you enjoy. We're so happy to support this part of state parks programming. We fund training for state parks employees too, from wilderness first response medical training to blacksmithing to programs that are put on for the staff and volunteers by experts in their various fields, and even best practices for exhibit maintenance and cleaning. We also support state parks with hospitality for trainings and meetings. Together with the Mountain Parks Foundation and the Portola Castle Rock Foundation, we fund State Parks Annual Volunteer Celebration, recognizing the contributions of all those volunteers. And I always joke that we fund the fun in state parks. You can see this in the wide variety of supplies that we provide. We love buying things for all of our parks, like at Wilder Ranch. The animal program needs everything from feed to fencing to veterinary care for the animals. They also need coal there for the blacksmith and baking supplies for the Victorian. We pay for maintenance of saltwater tanks at Natural Bridges and Seacliff, art supplies and materials for programs at parks like Natural Bridges and New Brighton, and other things like candle wax, masa, and propane at the Mission. These are just a few of the more day-to-day items. Other things like taxidermy specimens, repairing bears, rock for road repairs, and scuba tank maintenance come up less frequently, but it makes for great dinner conversation when somebody asks you what you do. The park's online resources for teachers and students, or PORTS, gets funding for equipment, cameras, computers, tablets, microphones. These items were especially beneficial during the pandemic years so that students who were isolated at home could still get a taste of learning at our parks. We do projects big, like the time we contracted to re-roof the fog signal building on Año Nuevo Island, and small. We've purchased a lot of signage in the last few years to keep things up to date as parks open and close and open, and traffic patterns change. You'll hear more about some of our other projects later in the hour. And now I'm going to stop for a second, take a deep breath.
Very good. Thank you, Peg. And we are so grateful for the public support that comes via the payment of fees in our park. So the day use, parking fees, camping, annual passes, campground showers, campground firewood. Between 15 and 100% of those fees, depending on which source we're talking about, come to Friends and stay local to support our parks. So thanks for paying your fees. Next slide, please. So continuing on park support, we're going to hear from our Senior Administrative Assistant, Ann Borba. And I just want to say a word about Ann. You just heard from Peg about our wonderful field staff. Ann has worked her way up the ranks from a visitor service aide to a senior visitor service aide. She also had a stint as a park interpreter at Pigeon Point, and she assists us ably every day. So she's going to talk to you briefly about marketing and communications and our partnerships. Ann.
Thank you, Bonnie. So I work directly with our marketing team, Miller Maxfield. We collaborate with state parks not only to promote upcoming events, but most importantly, to make sure that we're providing our community with the most up-to-date information that's available. Like everyone has touched upon, when we're having, a CZU fire or an atmospheric river, there's a lot of openings and closings. So that's what we help to spread the word. So for the latest updates on parks and trail conditions, events, job listings, or to even make a reservation at Big Basin Redwoods State Park, visit our website, that'smypark.org, or sign up for our bi-weekly newsletter to stay informed about our beloved state parks. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter to stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next slide, please. So we're going to hear now from Friends Finance Director, Laura Pascal, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the ways that Friends provides financial support to state parks. So next slide, please.
Bonnie, I think you skipped ahead a little bit. I still am supposed to tell them about our Friends staff. Sorry. There we go. There, right there. Perfect. So it's me again. And this time I'm going to tell you about the Friends program staff. So we have 16 Friends program staff who support education, equity and inclusion, conservation, facilities improvements, historic preservation, and public events. We also have staff who take care of our finances, and you're going to hear from next. And those of us who oversee the field staff. This year we have fellows who are working with State Parks interpretive staff to hone their skills and learn how to offer programs to park visitors, including the Kids to Parks field trip program, which you will hear more about from my colleagues. Volunteers are an additional source of support for our parks. As I mentioned, Friends supports volunteer programs in the parks, but we also have regular volunteers who work with us, like our dedicated board members and committees such as the Garden Committee, who work to keep the Castro Kimbrough Gardens in tip-top shape. From writing checks to writing grants, from planning interpretive exhibits to planning our upcoming 4th of July festivities, from finding excellent staff to work in the field to finding the perfect souvenirs to stock in our park stores, our staff works in partnership with and in support of our Santa Cruz District State Parks every day. You'll hear more about the specifics of our work from some of the other members of the team. And now I'm done. Yay.
Sorry about that, Peg.
No problem.
Over to you, Laura. Oh, you're muted. Seem to be having some audio issues. It looks like Laura is unmuted, but we are not hearing you, Laura. Should we come back to you? Okay, moving on. We're going to talk with our Friends Outreach Coordinator, Lauren Kitayama, about access and outreach. Lauren.
Good evening, everybody. As the outreach coordinator for Friends, I work with parks and other community groups to ensure that our parks are accessible to all. That kind of little line in that mission statement sometimes might not seem as important, but it is an incredible amount of work. And accessibility comes in many, many levels. And I think about it as levels starting inside the park and moving out. And this looks like focusing when we're in the park on recreational accessibility, asking the question, what can I do in this park? And making sure that regardless of physical, emotional, financial, or language barriers, that everybody has something to do when they come into the parks. And this includes things like our beach wheelchair program, where we have 10 wheelchairs available at 9 local beaches free of charge. So people have access across the sand and to the waterfront. It includes having a lift at Castro Adobe so everybody can have access to that upstairs Fandango room. And we work with partners like Shared Adventures to make sure that, did you lose me?
I think we can still hear you, but you're, oh dear.
There we go.
Okay.
To make sure that we're just going to keep going. To make sure that there are accessibility, ADA campgrounds, visitor center, restrooms, all those kinds of things. And like I was saying, we work with partners to help us know if we're doing well and where we can do better. This also includes making sure we have multilingual displays and brochures so that everybody has the opportunity to learn in the parks and to navigate the parks safely. The second tier is transportation and the question, can everybody get to the parks if they want to go to the parks? Nope, you lost me again.
No, you're good.
Okay, then I'm going to keep talking, but I can't see anything. This new to this year, there's the Learning Adventure Program, a partnership with Parks and the Watsonville Libraries that provides busing from the downtown library into 4 of our local parks so that families can experience interpretive programs. And we continually promote parallel work being done by parks, like the Metro bus that can take you to Big Basin and various parks passes. But mostly in this kind of transportation level, we are really excited about our Kids to Parks program. Peg mentioned it earlier. The Kids to Parks program pays for the transportation of Title I classes into parks so that students can experience interpretive-led field trips. And through the pandemic, like everything else, this program had to adapt. So it went from primarily in-person to virtual learning, and then to dual learning, where students get a virtual program and an in-person program. Our 4th level I call social accessibility, and it revolves around the question, do I feel welcome? Do I feel safe? Do I want to go to the parks? And this work for me is all about being in the community and talking to people. It includes tabling at places like the Watsonville Farmers Market, the Monterey Bay Bird Festival, Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History, all the good places. And then this also includes our work to recruit a diverse pool of candidates for jobs at Parks and Friends, and tabling at job fairs hosted by Your Future is Our Business. And then our Equity Fellowship Program, which is in collaboration with State Parks, Mountain Parks Foundation, and Portola Castle Rock Foundation. And then finally, there's that level I call generational access. And this revolves around creating a sustainable park that will continue to provide safe outdoor spaces and foster a community that uses them for decades to come. And most obviously, this includes our work at Big Basin after the CZU fire and our upcoming work at Sea Cliff since the winter storms. Back to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Your energy is inspiring. I don't see Laura back, so I'm going to keep going. Next slide, please. So it is my pleasure to introduce our Program and Parks Philanthropy Director, Joe Kenny. You're muted, dear.
And I practice so much to not be muted.
There you go.
Okay. Good afternoon. We're incredibly fortunate to live in a region with so many beautiful parks. At Friends, our privilege and joy is to bring the community's deep love of these parks to the table to create wonderful programs and services you're hearing about today. We really strive to create a diverse array of ways that people can support our state parks. For individuals, families, and businesses, we have what I like to call the gold standard of support with monthly and annual membership. A lot of people don't realize that we can plan new programs and outreach based on the consistent monthly and annual gifts we receive from the community. It makes a really big difference. Folks can also support specific programs like Kids to Parks that Lauren was just talking about, creating the Castro Adobe State Historic Park, or supporting the goats, cows, sheep, and barn cats at Wilder Ranch. It's very important to a lot of people to make sure those animals are treated well, and they support the program monthly. Also, one of the benefits of being a local nonprofit is our ability to respond quickly in emergencies. Chris spoke about this earlier. During the CZU fires, we raised $180,092 from 401 people, foundations, and businesses from across the globe. My colleague Peg is going to talk a little bit about that and the programs. So too, we created the Sea Cliff Recovery Fund and raised $77,480 from 178 people and the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz County to support the repair and reopening of Sea Cliff State Beach. Friends has also been blessed with support of numerous foundations for work such as the restoration of the Mission and the Castro Adobe, purchasing those beach wheelchairs that Lauren spoke about, and supporting the Kids to Park program. That is ongoing, and we're always looking for new foundations to partner with us. Another way members support local state parks is by donating their vehicles to friends, running or not. The donation process is easy and quick, and we receive 70% of the sale price. Since launching 3 years ago, we've earned $12,983 from the sale of 15 cars. Pretty good, huh? Some of those people said, oh, you'll never get anything for these cars. And in the end, we walked away with a couple $1,000. It's wonderful. So one of our most recent creative ways to support both state parks and families who love them is the tribute table program. A few years ago, state parks approached us for help to replace the many aging and broken picnic tables in the parks. So we launched tribute tables, offering people the opportunity to donate funds for a new redwood picnic table to be placed in their favorite state park. Each table has an inscription written by the donor dedicated to a beloved person, organization, or business. The tribute table program has been a rousing success, and we have 97 picnic tables ordered since early 2019. No small feat. Folks also donate through their estate, their retirement disbursement, and directly to the Friends account at the Community Foundation. These are just a few of the many ways our community, near and far, steps up to support our beautiful state parks. Please check out our website to learn more about these programs, and feel free to call me if you'd like to talk more about how you might help. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe. And we are so grateful for all of the public support that we get through your donations. 100% of the donations that come to Friends stays local to support our parks. So Laura, are you operational?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yay, hooray. Sorry about all that. In this slide, we are looking at our income and expenses from the last 2 fiscal years. In other income, we have insurance payouts for lost revenue and property damage due to the CZU fire. In contributions, Joe just talked about a lot of the ways that people contribute, but we also have 1.4 million from the loan forgiveness of the Paycheck Protection Program. So we got 2 loans there, and so that's reflected in our contribution line. Kiosk revenue includes camping, parking for day use, wood sales, and showers. And in our park stores, they made a dramatic comeback in sales when the parks opened up after the COVID-19 shutdown. In the California State Parks support and interpretive support, Friends contributed $2.4 million in direct financial aid to the Department of Parks and Recreation. This went directly to wages for the state. And in our operating expenses and personnel, Friends provided $9 million in service aid to the Department of Parks and Recreation. So overall, in the past 2 years, we have contributed over $12 million to our local state parks.
Thank you, Laura. Next, we're going to jump ahead a few slides to talk about park stores. So I'm very happy to welcome Friends Sales Director, Kat Bailey. Kat.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kat, and I've been the Sales Director at Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks for 9 years. Sales Director means that I am the manager and buyer for 5 park stores located in our local state parks at Wilder Ranch, Natural Bridges, the Santa Cruz Mission, New Brighton, and Sea Cliff State Beach. I also run the park store online. When I'm considering merchandise for our park stores, I like to think that I'm doing more than just looking for souvenirs. My job is to find and develop merchandise that reflects the best of our local state parks, whether that's a field guide to help you identify wildflowers or birds along your favorite trail, or a t-shirt that reminds you of an afternoon spent at one of our state beaches. I put a lot of thought into finding items that are meaningful and that someone would want to bring home, as well as books and other items that expand upon and support the educational programming that happens every day in our state parks. What I do is called nonprofit retail. And while that might sound like a contradiction, it's a meaningful way to raise money for a good cause. And it is also so much fun. Visitors can feel good about shopping in our park stores because they know that the revenue from their new sweatshirt will help support their parks and keep them thriving and available to all. And our park stores are more than just gift shops. They are an extension of the visitor's experience, important places where folks can get oriented to the park, meet park staff and volunteers, and they're also an opportunity to give back to our local state parks. Because when you make a purchase in one of our park stores, 100% of that revenue stays local. So the next time you hit the trails at Wilder Ranch or stroll the beach at Seacliff, please consider stopping in to see what's new in the park store. Your money will stay right here, and when you make a purchase, you can even opt to round up to the nearest dollar to support programs like Kids to Parks. And if you become a member of Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks, you get a 15% discount in our 5 park stores. And we add an extra discount at the end of the year for our annual holiday sale in early December. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kat. You do a great job. Our stores are just gems. So thank you for all of your work.
Thanks.
So next slide, please. So we're going to talk now about projects and facilities improvements. We're first going to hear about the Castro Adobe from Project Director and Historic Preservation Project Manager, Jessica Kusch. Jessica.
Thanks, Bonnie. So the last few years at the Castro Adobe have been one of major accomplishments, as Chris was kind of noting. It's been an exciting time for the restoration of the historic adobe, as well as planning for the interpretation of the site. All of this was done in collaboration with state parks as we worked to restore the building. So in 2002, we were proud to report that the restoration of the Castro Adobe State Historic Park was complete. And I just wanted to go over a few of those larger projects that were completed in 2021 and 2022. So we had the final installation of the fire suppression system, including approval by the state fire marshal, repair and whitewash of all the adobe walls, the interior and exterior. Fire monitoring and a burglary alarm system were installed a new roof with Prop 68 funds. We also had procurement of historic furnishings. We coordinated with the statewide museum collection center, and we also crowdsourced with the public to procure some of these furnishings. We also conserved and restored the painted baseboard and chair rail in the building. We also made significant progress on the interpretive planning so that we can open the park and provide an innovative and hands-on experience for visitors. We've collaborated with state parks and an interpretive planning firm, Civic Group, to develop an interactive house museum with the goal of inviting visitors to contemplate if these walls could talk. What would they say to you? Some of that interpretive work included designing the exhibits, creating riveting text for those exhibits, translation of all the text into Spanish, providing interesting multimedia experience to bring the site to life, and installing touchable objects and furnishings which encourage the visitors to engage with the Adobe building. So we're currently at the fabrication phase of the project. So this is where the actual exhibits are being fabricated for the site. It's a very exciting time. And we plan to have the new exhibits installed by January 2024, fingers crossed. So we thank the community for all their support of this important project and hope to see you soon at the Castro Adobe. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And thanks to our Castro Adobe Advisory Committee, our garden volunteers, and all the people who've worked with us over the last 20 years to bring this dream to reality. We were also very proud earlier this year to receive an award from the California Preservation Foundation. The Castro Adobe is one of 3 projects in the state of California that was recognized for the restoration. So we're very proud. Thanks, Jessica. So next slide. So we're going to return to our operations director, Peg Danielson, to talk about some highlights from Big Basin. Peg.
It's me again. Hello. So you've heard a bit already tonight about Big Basin, about the fire fund, and about the donations that people have made and what we've been able to do. But I'm going to give you a little bit more of some specifics. I think it's fair to say that everyone here has felt the loss at Big Basin. And I would start by thanking State Parks for their dedication and very hard work in restoring access to the park. It's an amazing thing to have people back in the park after 2 years after such a devastating event. Following the fire, we responded immediately by creating the Friends Fire Fund as a way for donors to support the park's short and long-term recovery. We were grateful for the support of individual donors and other foundations, such as the California State Parks Foundation and the Community Foundation, Santa Cruz County. Right after the fire, we paid direct grants to State Parks and Friends employees who had lost their homes. In the early stages of recovery, the fund was able to bring in Codify, which is an innovative, high-tech damage assessment and documentation tool, which helped expedite the work involved in recording the damage to make it easier to apply for grants and FEMA funds. We partnered with State Parks and with Sempervirens Fund to bring in a tree service to save 15 old growth redwood trees by cleaning them up and removing hazard limbs. We supported the State Parks team with visuals like posters and visuals, you know what I mean, at different times when people like the State Parks director and the governor came to view the damage. We were there at the first big volunteer workday with food and supplies. At the 1-year anniversary of the fire, we created an award-winning short film and a 3D virtual tour, and you can see both of them at our website. We've been actively involved in the Reimagining Big Basin process. We're really proud to have been asked to collaborate with State Parks to create and operate a day-use reservation system, providing access in the former park headquarters area. And we join with everybody else in the excitement of watching State Parks bring back more and more of our favorite roads and trails. In fact, we're coming up on the first anniversary of the park's reopening at the end of this next month. It feels really good to have our friendly field staff work in the park, greeting over 34,000 visitors and making them feel welcome back to Big Basin. Okay.
Thank you, Peg. So we've already welcomed over 28,000 visitors to Big Basin since the park reopened less than a year ago. So it's going really well up there. And if you haven't been recently, we urge you to go often and watch the recovery happen in real time. So next slide, we're going to talk about some additional park projects. Our final staff presenter, it's my pleasure to introduce project coordinator, Jennifer Matlock.
Thanks, Bonnie, and hello, everyone. So in addition to ongoing projects like the Castro Adobe and Big Basin, we have projects that start and finish all the time. A couple that we can mention from the last few years, just picking a few examples. You can see under my name there is a photo at Wilder Ranch. We supported putting new barn doors in to keep those farm animals safe. And a cool piece of that story is Big Basin lumber was repurposed. So after the fires, there was some cleanup, as was mentioned, and those were used to create that kind of historic look and feel with the lumber. We acknowledged another anniversary in addition to the Castro Adobe. We had it's been 10 years since Friends has been supporting and kind of leading the effort to restore to save the Santa Cruz mission. And we continue efforts there, such as recently we helped with the creation of the virtual bell exhibit kiosk. So you can see some of that online, and now there is an in-person at the mission as well as a bell. We have also engaged the original artist of the mural that you can see on Mission Street side of the Santa Cruz Mission to repair some of the tiles there. And we support events throughout the years. We also were at the Castro Adobe in anticipation of having a visitor center, an early California history archives, and habitat path accessible at all times to the public. We maintain the property that is adjacent to the park. And that includes a lot of different forms of property management and maintaining the grounds. The last few years, we've had a special emphasis on fire safety, things like tree work and keeping it safe. And finally, you can see there's a photo there, Seabright Beach. There's been a great community effort around acknowledging and commemorating the story of Seabright Beach as Castle Beach. And that includes, you can already see actually a new gate at Seabright Beach. And soon there will be interpretive signs telling the story of Castle Beach. And you are welcome to celebrate with us. We'll be there on Saturday, August 19th.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks. Lots of projects have been completed in the last couple of years. A lot more are queued up. So thank you for your work. So next slide, please. So looking ahead, as we've talked about, a lot has happened since we had our public meeting on November 21st, 2021. We were just a few months out from the CZU fire. We were deep in the middle of COVID. And so we have worked hard with state parks to respond to those challenges. And as also been mentioned, we've stepped up to help respond to the walloping atmospheric rivers that never stopped coming this winter. And all the while, we put one foot in front of the other. And despite those challenges, every day we continue to provide visitor services, make facilities improvements, work to create California's newest state historic park at the Castro Adobe, provide educational opportunities, expand access to parks, and invite the community to support those efforts through volunteering, fee collection, philanthropy, and shopping. So we look forward to the work ahead to continue to rebuild Big Basin and Seacliff. And we look forward to continuing to work with all of you to ensure that our cherished local parks and beaches are thriving and available to all. Next slide. So this is the opportunity, if you haven't already put a question in the chat. Do we have any questions, Jennifer? Jennifer?
We don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Well, I want to thank all of our presenters, first of all, and thank you to our partners at Miller Maxfield Incorporated, including Jennifer Murray and Tiffany Martinez for their able assistance with this meeting. Again, you can find our detailed operations reports on the website at that'smypark.org. We also invite you to join us at a few upcoming events. Jennifer mentioned the dedication and celebration at Castle Beach on August 19th. Just around the corner on the 4th of July, Friends is honored to have been selected as the Grand Marshals of the Aptos 4th of July Parade. So if anyone would like to come out and join us that day, it'll be a lot of fun. There's also the annual Wilder Ranch Old Fashioned 4th of July. So we might see you out there. So thanks for joining us today, and thanks for supporting our beautiful parks and beaches. Thank you.